Sometimes I think back to pre-baby and I would look at other people who have 1 kid, 2 kids, and I just assumed everyone knew what they were doing. And most people, I think, are kind of just winging it.
Yeah,
they read a couple books maybe, and they just feel like, I'm just gonna do what I think is best.
But that's why having a community as best as you can is so helpful, because it helps you get insights and wisdom from different people on things that you're like, oh, I never even considered that. Work on yourself to not take things personally, because what people are doing is really more about them and not about you.
Yeah, I think it's obviously easier said than done. It takes a lot of inner work and detaching, and some people just are naturally, and this is sort of what we were discussing the other day, like why are some people just naturally so good at not taking things personally, almost to a fault, where you're like, they don't.
Andrew, my husband, that is him.
About,
the epitome of someone who does not care what people think of him. Anytime you find yourself being quick to judge, like check in with yourself and be like, why do I have these strong opinions about this other person? Like, what can I do to work on myself?
For many, many people, if you can start to feel extreme gratitude for where you are now and what you know is coming, because if you can desire it, it means that you're desiring it for a reason. There's nothing wrong with desiring more for your life. And that was pivotal for me, because I felt guilty for wanting more.
That was Hannah Mcneely, my sister. If you don't know, we are 14 months apart and we are inseparable. She is my best friend and we tell each other everything. She's a huge source of inspiration in my life, and I'm so thankful for how we've been able to help each other grow throughout the years. And in this conversation, you'll be able to get a little sneak peek into how we converse and discuss things. We talk about all different kinds of things, from juggling motherhood to her entrepreneurial mindset shifts that she's had over the last years in her life, and just living a fulfilling life, to what it was like for us growing up in our childhoods and our parents transitioning to plant-based, how to make a plant-based diet sustainable, including talking a little bit about her course that she recently came out with called Vegan for Good. It's incredible. Definitely check it out if you're interested, linked below. And we dabble all different kinds of things, including internal mindset shifts that you can have in your own growing journey, like things like not taking things personally from other people and learning to try to see people from their differing perspectives and understanding why people think the way that they do, trying to judge less and just focus more on your own inner growth. I loved having her on the podcast because, of course, we're best friends and we have so much fun talking together. So I hope you enjoy our conversation. Let's get into it.
You ready for a really big conversation? Is this another test?
Yeah. All right. Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here because it's the Ellen Fisher podcast. And I met someone on the plane who was like, I know that podcast.
You did?
I told you.
I forget.
It was, remember, because they said they're working with Underground Railroad. I said my sister's going to have the founder on. And then she said, which podcast? I said the Ellen Fisher podcast. And instead of saying, I watch her YouTube channel, she said, I love that podcast, or I know that podcast. And it's cool to be known by the podcast.
Yes, actually, when I was like walking across the street one day a few months ago, a car pulled up outside and it was a guy who was driving. Normally it's like I have a largely female audience, but it was a guy who was driving. He rolled down the window and was like, hey, are you that podcast lady? No. I was like, yes,
I am. Yes, I am that podcast lady. That is the affirmation I tell myself every morning in the mirror.
So Cosmo doesn't really like Koufax right now.
Cosmo's my 14-month-old. Koufax is 20 months. And Koufax is like this bumbling, sort of happy, jolly monster.
Like a gentle giant and doesn't know his own strength.
Yeah. And Cosmo in his past life was a daisy. And I swear he's going to be a poet laureate one day or something. Like, he's just a sensitive soul, and they don't always click, but sometimes they do.
But Koufax really tries.
I know.
Like, he'll come up and be like, hi, Cosmo. And he comes up and he's like gently about to touch him, and Koufax is like, ah! I mean, Cosmo like literally looks like he's about to get attacked and just shrinks into this like, please don't hurt me.
But it's so special to have the cousin relationship, because we were never close with our cousins, like geographically.
Yeah, they're not geographically close either.
That's my point. It's like they're not close, and so we never really got to, yeah.
But since we see each other all the time, and they like, it's so cute because we do see moments where like, oh, they're playing together. It's so sweet. And my eldest like love playing with Cosmo and just love babies. Like my two oldest kids especially just love taking care of babies. So they just will swoop Cosmo up and take care of him so we can like, you know, do the dishes or whatever. And it's just so nice.
Yes, definitely.
So where should we begin? We have so many things to talk about.
I know. It was really hard to decide what we were going to talk about. I think I love so many topics. It's hard. I feel like I don't really have a exact niche. And so I just have, you know, I'm passionate about yoga and veganism. But beyond that, just general positive mindset and relationships and living a fulfilled life and everything. And I don't know. It's you take the reins.
It was just hard to narrow it down because we're like, what specific thing would people like to hear us just chat about? So we kind of have like I feel like it's just gonna go a lot of different places.
And I'm okay with that. I really love organic conversation.
Yeah.
And I think it gets interesting when we're willing to get a little vulnerable and don't have an exact plan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Well, I feel like it would be interesting to talk a little bit about like childhood and growing up and our friendship and how it has evolved so much, because a lot of people do see us and they know we're so close.
Yeah.
And how it became that way. Like, what's your
We're
version of
really
it?
lucky, I feel, because not everyone I know is this close with their sisters. And we always comment, like, I can't imagine not having this relationship. It's been so formative for me and for you. And I would just be a completely different person if it weren't for you.
I know. I feel the same way. And whenever I come across people who say I'm not really close to my sister or my sibling, I'm just like, how? Like, it's hard for me to understand because I've only had one experience with one sister. But I wonder how much of it has to do with like just like personality dynamics and differences, or if it's like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's the way we were raised in our household, the way our parents raised us, and we fought. It's not like we've always been, and we still fight. We still bicker all the time. We're sisters.
Yeah,
So
like there's
honest
when
with
we're
each
like
other.
getting on each other's nerves. It's like, but we always just like work it out and talk it through. And I think it has to do with like open communication.
We
and
don't
honesty.
allow each other to hide or to avoid.
Yeah.
Because if they're, for real, because I think a lot of families are so accustomed to hiding and putting on this pretty face and pretending everything's okay, and they're not going to talk about the hard things. And one of my favorite things about our family in general, not to mention just our relationship, is how we really do get in there, and we are so direct. Let me give you an example. When when Eric first, one of his first times coming to our house, my family house, you were living here, so you weren't there, but he had dinner with our parents. And he was so unaccustomed to the way I talked to my parents. Like, we were raised to be respectful to everyone. But just because they're my parents, it doesn't mean I can't be direct with them. And they treat me like I'm my own person and I can have my own ideas.
Yeah, our own opinions.
We can have our own opinions, and I can broach those opinions and I can push back a little bit. And I remember my mom said something, and I don't know what I said, but something direct back, like, you know, maybe a little snotty. And Eric turns to me, he's like, Hannah, you can't talk like that to your mom. We're in our late 20s. He's like, you can't talk like that to your mom. I was like, what? I've never been told that I can't speak my mind.
Yeah, and it reminds me of another situation too, where I was I was visiting, and you and Eric were already married, and we were sitting down at the table, and we were having some kind of debate / discussion on something we disagreed with, and I think it was about like getting paid, like certain professions and how much you should be getting paid, like something really funny, just random, and we were just like going back and forth about it and like feeling strongly about it, and then, you know, Eric is like, why are you guys fighting? And we're like, this is fighting? This isn't fighting.
Oh, you want to see fighting. No, it's not like we fight. But you know what I mean? Like, that's just speaking our mind and being okay with talking about things that are a little uncomfortable. Yeah. And I think that the more we talk about that, because we talk about this topic a lot because I find it really interesting. I think that so many people just weren't raised to speak their mind and to be comfortable with disagreement. Because, and this, well, let me just bring it back to your podcast, Ellen. This is what your podcast is. Like, you're ready to dig into some really uncomfortable topics that might definitely ruffle some feathers. And I'm just so proud of what you're creating.
Thanks.
Because I feel like, I don't know if your audience is really aware of what you're doing and this sort of big sort of thesis you're orchestrating. It's like you're setting up so many interesting topics in an open-minded way and bringing in people from all different backgrounds and all different perspectives and having just fun conversations with people who are willing to dig into it. Mm-hmm. And I'm just so proud of what you're doing because I don't see very many people taking that pivot, especially from like, you know, YouTube influencer, lifestyle vlogger, a little vanilla, right? Like you're not ruffling any feathers. And then, hey, you know what? This is what I'm passionate about and this is what I'm doing. And I'm just so proud of you. And
Thanks.
I can't wait to see it just completely take off and see which way it's going to go.
Thank you. Some people might be kind of like, I wish you would have just stuck to what you knew. And I'm like, sorry, this is where I feel like going.
Well, it's not up to them what you do. So.
Yeah, and I'm just going in a direction that I'm excited about, and there's only so much that I can share on my main channel, and I was really looking to like explore in a lot of different topics. Anyone listening, I encourage you to go listen to my Dominic Thompson episode. That one was so good and kind of highlights what you're talking about, just like digging into a lot of different layers and important topics and like even differing perspectives. Like that was not by any means an opposing views episode at all. Like literally so much, most of what we talked about was what we kind of aligned on. There was a part like towards the end where we get like, okay, I'm not sure I agree on this. And I just like love that. To me, it's like my favorite thing, like certain aspects where you can just go back and forth and listen to each other. And that's like how I'm being very careful on who I have onto the podcast is like specific people who are very open-minded. And I'm just so inspired by so many people out there. And I just like, am so excited to have them on the podcast. I'm just really inspired by this show right now. So thank you everyone for tuning in.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you just keep doing the same thing over and over, you know, you might say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. However, if your passion is flagging and you're not actually excited about the content you're producing, the audience picks up on that. And I think this is a really common theme with influencers in all media. They really burn out, and then the audience loses interest, and you're doing something really daring and exciting, which I think is so important to what's going on in our culture right now, because you're not just like, I don't know, it's not this black and white sort of cut and dried show. It's everything.
I think it could come across that way for maybe someone who like sees the title and doesn't feel like watching it or something. But I think for people who are willing to just like give it a chance and listen, they might see there's a lot more layers and nuance to like every conversation.
I know nuance. That is what, and that's my point, is that's what we're all craving right now, is nuance and taking a break from the divisiveness and just getting into
the black and white. There's so many black and white, like people having the black and white polarization, like
hitting people against each other.
Yes, which I really don't like. And anyone who's listened to any amount of episodes on my podcast is like, all right, Ellen, yeah, you've said that multiple times. But just even bringing it back to driving it back to the topic of like our childhood, like Mom, I don't think I realized until I became an adult, like how I feel like our parents were like practicing gentle parenting before that was a thing.
I know.
And they really have always been respectful about our perspectives, and that was really huge for us like growing up, and I hope to instill that in my family too. I try my very best to anything that I'm passionate about or remotely have an interest in to be like, this is what I feel, this is what I'm thinking, not like labeling this is what we feel as a family, because like I don't know what my child's gonna feel as they get older. They might not have the same opinions on me on a lot of things as they get older. So I really hope to instill that safety within the kids to know that like you can think what you want to think. And
I love that you use the word safety because
that's an interesting word for it, I guess.
No, I think it's great because you can feel secure in disagreement. And I think that we, sometimes the safe space, whatever that gets overused, it's like, I'm only safe if everyone agrees with me.
Yes. Oh, I'm so not about that.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That's such a good point, because safety should be like just acknowledging that you can be who you are, think what you want to think, and share how you feel without this like fear of being quote unquote canceled or labeled as like this or this, you know? So yeah, I think that that's really interesting dynamic about the way that we were raised. And we definitely fought. We definitely, as a kid, as children, there were, like you said, you don't have that many memories of our childhood.
Yeah.
What memories do you have?
Okay, I remember once, either you or me, like, we would use our nails a lot when we fought. Is that like a girl thing?
Did we?
I just remember, I think it was me. I'm just going to say it was me. I dug my nails into your shoulders, and you were wearing tank top, and I drag you. No, I would never do that. I'm so kind.
You're kind of exaggerating about how extreme our friendship is right now, Hannah.
We fought as kids, and I remember, we have memories of us fighting and Mom having, you know, a group downstairs or something, and then we go up, she goes up, what are you guys doing? We're working it out. Like we're figuring it out.
Mom, this was something that my mom has actually said to me multiple times. Like, when you guys were fighting, I would just say, go to your room and work it out, instead of like trying to delegate, make someone out to be the bad guy or the good guy. And I do remember us being like going to our room, and then just eventually, I'm sorry.
It's so good for kids to learn how to, like, it's okay to be angry, and it's okay to have these like big emotions, but you can work it out, you know?
Yeah, and there's obviously more layers to it. There's a lot of situations. It really depends on the situation. But the way that we were was just kind of, I don't know, like we would just fight over the silliest things.
But I do remember it because I think that we are so close now, and I don't know if that would have happened if it hadn't been for me moving away a couple times.
Yeah, why did we get close, and when did we get close?
So I started school in Orange County. I didn't like the school, so then I went to Oregon, and I was there for a semester. I remember as soon as I left, it was like, my sister, and we sort of realized what we had.
Yeah.
And then we, you know, were communicating in however people communicated back in 2007 and probably by email or text. And then
I'm tripping out right now. Oh, no, like regular cell phones, just not like a smartphone.
You know,
I was like,
wait
T9.
a second,
what was it?
Yeah, like tap them a lot.
The team.
I was so good at T9. Yeah. And then again, after I graduated, I went to Italy for a few months, and I remember having a lot of Skype conversations with you, and we got a lot of practice in how to be there for each other when we weren't in the same time zone.
Yeah, and I think it helped us, like you said, we realized that, oh, like this is my person that's there for me no matter what, because you go far away and you're like, wait, I don't really have anybody right now. So when I need somebody, or I just want someone to help me talk through something, or I'm feeling big emotions, like, who do you go to? And like, you call your sister. And that was like, that's probably one of the things that helped realize how close we were. Yeah. We didn't realize it.
I'm really grateful for that, for our friendship, because I have close friends, but who am I going to call for the most vulnerable things, you know?
Yeah, you're like pretty much the only person that I tell everything to.
Right.
That we battle with. Basically, you know, I've had questions before about like, well, how do you guys stay close even though you're so far away? Like, we pretty much, we pretty much like call each other, FaceTime, text each other every day. I love when I wake up in the morning and I have a text from my sister, because my time zone is later than her, so she gets up before me. And when I, you know, turn off airplane mode, I have a text from my sister. You're always the first person that I'm looking at the text. And even though I don't get on my phone throughout the day, I often don't answer people's text messages until the end of the day when the kids are asleep. But you're someone that it's like, we make the time for even during the day, especially if we need each other for something, and or just not even necessarily like need each other, but like, I'm having these big emotions, or I'm feeling frustrated right now. Can you talk to me for a few minutes?
I think that's a need. And I think that we always we can sense when the other person's busy. And if you're too busy and it's not that important, okay, that's fine, we'll talk later. But if it's like, no, Ellen, I need you.
I really need you right now.
Yeah, communicate that. Please step away and talk to me for 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's normally more than 5 minutes, but
yeah, it's true.
But yeah, I think that's kind of just how we handle our relationship, and just make sure, like when I'm visiting California, I'm seeing you most of the time. It's the main reason why I'm visiting you, whereas Andrew, for him, it's like the rest of his family.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that growth in relationships just happens through a lot of talking. For me, at least, we just talk a lot.
Yeah, and openness and honesty. And we have so many similarities in thoughts.
You know, I actually wanted to ask you this, and this is perfect as happening on the podcast. Do you feel like you can relate to me more now that I'm a mom? because it's such a huge shift in who you are when you become a mother for the first time. And, you know, we had a lot of similar life things, but motherhood was a huge missing piece that we didn't share until a year ago.
Well, I don't know for you specifically. I think for a lot of people that is the case.
Okay.
But I don't know if for you specifically, because you were there with me. You've been there for me so much through the thick of like young motherhood and new children and stuff that I really did have always felt like you understood.
Okay. I didn't, but okay.
You didn't really totally understand.
No.
So there were definitely like once you became a mother that I would be like, you get it now. Like you see, like
it was the moment when I was like, Ellen, when do I work out? Like when do I exercise? And you're like, you understand now.
You'll figure it out. You'll just gotta squeeze it in somewhere. Yeah. You know? So there's definitely been moments where I'm like, yeah, you get it now. Like, especially like with your home birth and being like, when the baby was born, I'm looking at you like, see?
I know.
Isn't this incredible?
I remember before I gave birth and you were so excited for me. You were more excited than I was. Like, I was just excited to not be pregnant anymore. Like, I don't want to be pregnant anymore. I'm so tired of this. And you were like, Hannah, a slithery baby's gonna come out of your vagina. It's gonna be amazing. I'm like, okay, calm down. And you're right.
I was just like, you're just like, I'm like, no, Hannah, like really, it's gonna be so incredible, like this otherworldly experience, and you're just gonna be on this cloud. Like, I'm so excited for you, and you're like, and then when the baby's born, you look at me with this like huge wide-eyed, like, what the heck just happened right now? And I'm like, see,
I know. I can't wait to do it again. It was amazing.
So that aspect, and you know, certain parenting aspect things like this, like sleep and just like finding time to do things, and you know, feeling like you were busy before you had a kid, and then now after you have a kid, being like, oh, okay,
this is busy.
But that's not to like discount anyone who doesn't have a kid.
It's a different kind of busy.
It's a different kind of busy. It also depends on your lifestyle. Like everyone can feel busy depending on what they're doing. Like,
I know. I feel like, Ellen, busyness is such a thing for me that I want to let go of. I don't want to be that person where every time someone asks me how I'm doing and I just say, I'm so busy.
Oh my gosh, I do that.
I've been that person for a decade and I'm tired of it.
I definitely do that. When people are like, how are you? I'm like, good, just busy. We have a lot going on. Yeah. You know, got this going on. We're doing this. We're homeschooling the kids and this and this. I'm almost always busy is the word.
I know.
And I definitely feel like slowing down and not like labeling yourself as like, this is my identity.
I think that's
busy
what it is
helpful.
It can be a perspective.
Yeah, and it's like an intention on like how much you're doing in your life, and just being willing to slow down, because it can be hard sometimes to slow down when you feel like you have so many things on your list that just haven't get done. And I'm definitely the type of person where I like to check everything off before I relax, because I can relax so much better if everything is checked off my list. But when you're raising children, it is not necessarily best for your mental well-being or theirs if you're just obsessed with getting everything checked off before you hang out with them.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, because if you're like, look, I'm gonna just forget the dishes, the house looks like a tornado came through it, but we're just gonna sit down here and play a board game and do this or that, or play baseball or whatever, and not feel like, oh yeah, we'll do that after I do this, we got a lot to do still, we're doing this, so I got work to do, you know, just like pause and just chill. I feel like
children exist on a different plane. Like, they don't see it. They don't see the urgency of getting everything done. And so when they want to play with you and you say, I can't right now, it's like a kind of a huge disappointment often.
Yeah, I feel like it's so helpful to show your excitement and your enthusiasm for wanting to play with your children, even if you can't play with them right in the moment, you know? Be like, I really do want to do that. Yes, that's a great idea. Let me just finish this up and then we'll do that. Or as often as you can to just, set down whatever you're doing and just do it. Because, like, you're never going to get those years back.
I know.
Like, those years when they're so little and they want to do everything with you. And
I think it's a daily reminder of just treasuring and cherishing those beginning years. Because I have to constantly remind myself, it's a bad habit of mine where I just am constantly obsessed with productivity.
But do you feel like you've worked on it in any way?
Hugely. I do think, though, sometimes the things on the to-do list that I have to check off are self-care things. You know, it gets outrageous. It's like, all right, time to do my vaginal weightlifting. Check. Facial exercises. Check. Skincare roller. Check. Like 3 hours later, I'm walking out of the bathroom. You know, like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a decision on like what's worth it to you. Like, you know, just deciding what do I have time for today and what's my biggest priority. And so maybe
or lifting your vagina while rolling your skin at the same, like
multitasking. I've become quite a multitasker.
Yeah.
Putting on my makeup at the same time. Yeah, there's like, but it really does come down to like just the priority of spending time with your children. And so when it comes to the other things that you have going on, it is a daily reminder to be like, let it go. Not everything has to get done today.
Yeah. No,
not just the self-care stuff, but the work stuff.
I know. Yeah. And the productivity, like it's been a huge journey for me where I didn't realize it was such an obsession and a bad thing. I just always associated productivity as positive and not really realizing I was really immersed in this culture of how to get things done, get more done, you know, do more every day. And it ruined my sleep. It ruined my just stress level, my anxiety. It was not good for me. And I think I need to sort of do a little bit of a reset since, you know, I'm now out of that first year of motherhood, which was intense. And I feel like I can do more of a settling back into, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that balance is so, there's balance is huge, because if you're too not about productivity versus too much about the productivity, you know, there could be thrown out of balance either way. So the balance is key. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about your kind of passions in like living a fulfilling life, your mindset stuff. You read a book that really helped you.
Okay, let me tell you the story.
You're like really passionate about
I am. It's something I can't stop. Like, you know that thing where they're like, what's that thing you can't stop talking about? For me, it's mindset, because I'm continuing to have a radical transformation. For me, mostly the topic was finances, because of where I was to where I am now is just a huge, huge journey. And basically, I was a teacher. I got my degree in English, my bachelor's, and then I was teaching ESL. And I realized, hey, if I want this other job at a community college, I need to get my master's. Got my master's, got into some student loan debt, and then just was working jobs, and I became what they call a freeway flyer, which is basically trying to fill enough classes into your schedule to make up a full income to live in Southern California. And it's very expensive in California, and they don't pay teachers very well. So I was just sort of stuck in this position, and I just sort of thought I would always have that level of income, which is fine. You know, I could have been fine on that. But I realized that I actually desired more of something bigger. And let me insert here, actually, because it's kind of awkward to talk about finances and money in general, because everyone has different experiences, is that I had basically a very poor relationship with money. It was like I wanted it, but I felt guilty for wanting it. And I felt like it was wrong to be rich, and wrong, or rich in quotes, whatever that means to each person, wrong to desire wealth. I wanted to make more, but I kept telling myself that I couldn't, even though I was already doing my own thing online, having a podcast, and I was doing YouTube and stuff. Then one day, my friend Cami Pettin showed this book on her Insta stories called You Are Baddest at Making Money. And I found that title really offensive. You know, like I just found it very glaring and direct. It was very triggering for me. I was like, you're not supposed to say that on the cover of a book. And I ordered it because I thought, why not? It just sounded really radical to me. And so I was listening to it. That's what it was. I was listening to it. I was chopping veggies, and I had to stop because the book felt like it was really written for me. And it was about like telling yourself how you're always going to have this much money or whatever. And it's like you're repelling money. It's like, whoa, I had to pause it because that was just everything to me. And after I read that book, in 3 months, I tripled my income. And all I did was shift my mind, you know, and shift my mind about money. And what it is, it's like deep gratitude. And
didn't it also shift the way you made choices in your life? Because
but that's
your
where it started. That's where it starts. Because if I was so determined to make this level of income, then I would never have gone after, because I realized I was getting emails. Money was trying to come to me, and I was saying no. Isn't that so bizarre? I think you can't relate. This is not your story at all. But like a lot of people have this story. I know I have close people in my life who they still are like, I can never afford that. I'll never be able to do that. Well, I'm always going to be poor.
And when she says I can't relate to it because it's not my story, it really isn't my story. I've never had that kind of mindset where like, oh, I can't
I'm never going to be able to make this, or that kind of mindset. But what I have found really helpful is what you're saying, the mindset of like, I can do this, and what can I do to be successful at whatever we're wanting to do, whether that's about money or not, whether that's about where we want to live or not. Like, a lot of people don't really know Andrew and I's story and what we did to make living here work for us, and how when we moved here, I didn't want to go back to work because I didn't want to go back to being a waitress. And so I wanted to be at home with my son. I had one kid at the time, and Andrew was like, yeah, I'm on board with that. So when we moved here, he got 2 jobs as a zip line tour guide. And then he also became a grocery store employee at a health food store. And he worked about 60 hours a week just to make sure that we could meet our requirements to not dip into our savings, because we wanted to make sure we could continue to save. And we had these goals for a home, to buy our first home. So we had these goals, and so we lived extremely minimally. Got the cheapest rent we could find from a house that was really run down.
It was rough over there.
Really run down, but to us it was worth it, because we're like, we don't want to be spending more than we can afford. We don't want to be spending more just because we would live in a more quote unquote nicer looking house. To us, it was worth it to make that sacrifice. And so while that was strugglesome for us, like just moving here and not really knowing anybody, and then like working so much, we kind of have that mindset of like short-term hard work for long-term gains. That's kind of the mindset Andrew and I have always had. So like, we knew that was on the horizon for us, and we knew we could get there, but it was about hard work and personal responsibility, and that was like a really big thing for us. And then that's when like organically just sharing my life online just became something, and I'm like, oh, I should do something with this.
And you've never had that limiting mindset. I don't know. Yeah. That's something that you and I differ.
Yeah.
You know, you've always been,
but what's funny is
sure of yourself in that way.
Yeah, but what's funny is I don't ever remember being like, Hannah, you're limiting yourself. I never felt like that about you. Like, I never was like, Hannah, you can be, like, I don't think we've ever had talks like that.
No,
did
you
we?
Totally said that to me.
Did I?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember.
You were like, Hannah, I'd be like, just feeling sorry for myself all the time. I can't believe I was like that constantly. Just like, Ellen, you're so lucky. Like, you can do this. I'm stuck in this job. And you're like, Hannah, you're already making videos. Like, why can't you create a business for yourself?
Yeah, or like make a recipe ebook. And I was like encouraging you.
I was like, I can't do. I had an excuse for everything. And this is why I'm so passionate about it, because I hear other people say that, and I see my past self in them. And so with their permission, I give them free life coaching.
Okay, but to be clear, that's not to say that like anyone who is struggling with making an income is necessarily just like, oh, you just need to flip your mind. Like, there's different situations.
Yeah.
That I feel like there's different situations for so many different types of like places in life that people are at, that like, I don't know. Sometimes it takes more than that, and there's a lot. And sometimes people are coming.
It starts there. I'm with you. I know you're trying to be really nice to people right now, but like, I'm like, listen, like, it starts there.
No,
obviously, everyone comes from a different background. Everyone has different, like, yes, but for many, many people, if you can start to feel extreme gratitude for where you are now and what you know is coming, because if you can desire it, it means that you're desiring it for a reason. There's nothing wrong with desiring more for your life. And that was pivotal for me, because I felt guilty for wanting more.
Right.
Do you see what I mean?
No, I'm so with you right there. I think that our mindset is huge. Personal responsibility is huge, and not like blaming others.
Yes.
But I also think it's also really helpful just to preface and laying the groundwork of this type of conversation, that like some people are in really, really, really tough situations. Absolutely. That they're starting at a different place that is harder to get to, like a place that maybe someone else is getting to. So just, I don't know, just acknowledging that.
I get that. And you know, I always get the email of like, you don't understand my situation. And sure, I don't understand your situation because I'm not you. But I do know so many people in my life that they don't realize how determined they are to stay in their situation. They are determined to be miserable.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that like, for whatever hard situation that someone is going through, there's somebody else that has gone through a very similar situation and has pulled themselves through
and
it
and become mindset about it.
Yeah, and have become this incredible, overwhelming success in all facets of life. This is not just about money, but just about success in whatever you feel like it's success. I think Dominic Thompson is a perfect example of that. Like, you guys really should go listen to that episode. his story is so incredible. He's very inspiring, all the stuff he overcame. And it really comes down to like making a choice to take your chances when you get it, and to go for it, and to have that mindset switch is huge. And so part of that too is how we raise our kids. If we're raising our kids to think that like you won't be able to do this or that, and like it'll be too hard, like I think it's like generational trauma
I know.
that like makes it hard to break that cycle sometimes.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know like how much we can share, but about our own parents, like they did not come from money.
Yeah, actually, I was having a conversation with Dominic. I keep bringing him up, but we had such a great time with him visiting, and we were just talking about kind of our life stories and stuff, and I was just telling him a little bit about like my parents' background, and he's like, you should talk about that more.
And now, a word from our sponsors. As a mom, it's important to me to use products that are both effective and made without harmful ingredients. And it always feels good to use products that cut down on waste too. Did you know that an estimated 5 billion plastic hand soap and cleaning bottles are thrown away each year? And if that's not bad enough, each bottle can be made of more than 90% water. What a waste. Enter Blueland. With Blueland, you buy a bottle once and refill it forever. No more plastic waste. What a simple and beautiful idea. The only thing you need to discard is your outdated idea that eco-friendly products are more expensive and less effective. Just fill Blueland's Forever bottles with warm water, pop in one of the hand soap or spray cleaner tablets, and within minutes you have powerful cleaning products in the most incredible scents like iris agave and lavender eucalyptus. I used to have trouble finding effective but eco-conscious cleaning products. Not anymore. I've been using Blueland's Clean Essentials kit as a regular part of my cleaning routine for months now and absolutely love it. And I also recently got their plastic-free laundry and dishwasher tablets. So Blueland has something for all your cleaning needs. The Forever bottles start at just $10 a bottle when you buy a kit and are meant to be reused forever with money-saving refill tablets that start at just $2. And right now you can get 20% off your first order when you go to blueland.com/Ellen. That's 20% off your first order of any Blueland products at blueland.com/Ellen. blueland.com/Ellen. We're also brought to you today by Buffy. Getting a good night's sleep is so important for our physical and mental well-being. Buffy enhances my quality of sleep with their incredibly soft and sustainable bedding, helping to reset from busy days balancing work and being a mom. So what's so great about Buffy is that the bedding industry typically has a huge impact on the environment, but they decided to change that. Their products are made using only renewable and recycled materials, which makes them as soft on the planet as they are on your bed. And you guys, their cloud comforter is incredible. It has over 18,000 5-star reviews and is definitely the best comforter I've ever slept with. The cloud comforter is ultra breathable, softer than cotton, and keeps you at the perfect temperature to feel cozy without overheating. It's covered in super soft eucalyptus fabric and filled with fluffy fiber made from 100% recycled bottles. It's hypoallergenic, plus its high thread count shuts out dust, mold, and mites for a healthier sleep environment. The most important aspect of this comforter for me is that the average down comforter harms 12 geese, but Buffy's comforter is cruelty-free. It feels even softer than down while keeping about 50 bottles out of landfills and oceans. And eucalyptus uses 10 times less water than cotton to grow. So use my code ELLEN for $20 off orders over $80. You can try a comforter in your own bed for free. If you don't love it, return it at no cost. Mom and Dad do not. They love everything. Whenever they hear themselves on the podcast, she's like,
that's me.
I heard you talked about me on the podcast. And she's like,
I taught you how to make the veggie broth.
Yeah. She's like always excited when she gets brought up. Mom and Dad, we love you.
Yeah, they're our biggest fans.
So yeah, biggest fans. By the way, guys, my dad is like the most amazing affirmer. Like, and that is, if a lot of you might know that words of affirmation is definitely my love language. And so my dad has just always been that way. Our dad, he'll send us the longest messages, like with details and specific things about something he's affirming. Like, I just watched your last podcast and like, you are just so incredible. I'm so amazed by you and your growth. And like, I love the way you talked about this or this. And like, he has always said, like, I've always felt like I don't deserve you guys. Like, he's just so expresses so much gratitude for us. And I've always felt so loved by him because he has been so incredible with his words. I was going somewhere with this. Why did we bring my mom and dad up?
Well, let me say that Mom is also extremely loving too.
Yes. They're both incredible.
She feeds us food all day long, and that is how she shows us love. And I feel and after I had a baby, I was so glad I lived 15 minutes from my mom, because even 4 or 5 months later, she's still bringing dinner over to me. Like, bring it on in, set the enchiladas there. Thank you very much.
That support is so helpful. Oh, I remember what I was going to say is Dominic, I was telling him kind of like my parents' story, and he's like, you should share more of that online. I think like a lot of people would like to kind of know that, like those different
generations of, you know, what's going on. Like my dad, our dad grew up in a trailer park and had alcoholic parents, and he just had, his childhood was definitely like a more traumatic type of childhood where he was determined to not become that as an adult. And he was like, that is not going to be me when I grow up. I'm going to make something of myself. And he was so determined to just be like, he just had so much incredible personal responsibility to get out of his situation. And he did.
And this is what I love about Dad's story is that he studied philosophy at Humboldt State. Mm-hmm. Such a hippie. Philosophy at Humboldt State.
Yeah.
And then he ended up working as a drafter at an engineering firm. Like, you couldn't get a more opposite sort of career, totally. Right? And then he sort of worked his way up to one day he's owning the company, and he is studying for his license. This is the biggest thing. He got his engineering license without having an engineering degree, which is very uncommon. And he studied. You remember during childhood, like he took that test like 5 times or something, and it was
study so
really hard,
super difficult.
It's an incredibly difficult test. Most people don't pass the first time, and they have engineering degrees. See what I'm saying? Like he had to really put in the work, and he did it. And I'm just so proud of him.
Oh my gosh! To see, especially when he would tell us about his childhood and what he came from.
Yeah,
we're like, I was always just kind of shocked to hear about it, because he literally changed his life to such a degree that when he raised his own children, we didn't have to go through that.
We wanted nothing.
We didn't. Yeah, it was like he changed his trajectory of his life. He was determined to get out of that situation of growing up in a trailer park, having a hard childhood, and being like, this is not going to be my life when I grow up. And so as he became older, he literally like kind of broke that type of generational thing that can often happen. And as a result, we were so like have a totally different privileged type of growing up because of his determination and personal responsibility, which I think is an incredible story.
And Dad's story doesn't end there, because he is on this like constant transformation. I feel like he would be an amazing
I feel like
guest
I should get him on the podcast. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to see my dad on the podcast.
Gary on here.
Yeah,
he's just been working on himself for the past few years. He went plant-based a couple years ago, and automatically it was like he was reverse aging. Like he just looked incredible, and he was doing like paleo, high meat, high like animal products before,
like grass-fed stuff.
Yeah, and then he switched to plant-based. And what it was is when Eric and I moved in there for a year and a half to save money to own a home, and he saw how much I was eating, and he's like, oh, I have to eat that much? I'm like, yeah, you gotta eat more than me. You're a tall man.
Yeah.
You know?
And it actually, a lot of people are like, wait, that's so cool that your parents are both plant-based now. We should talk a little bit about that, because Hannah and I have been vegan for a long time. I've been vegan for 15 years. Wait, do you feel like that's the exact amount of time for you as well?
Well, I say I've been vegan for 15 years. The first 6 years were a wild ride.
We're a little bumpy, up and down.
Which I think is relatable. Most people don't have an overnight easy transition.
Yeah. You know? So for me, we're just different. We just have totally different personalities.
She goes, for me, it was
easy for me.
I know. We have very different personalities. But wait, can we pause real quick, though? Because I do want to say that the transition into being fully plant-based, for me, it was like, I thought I was struggling because I lacked discipline. I thought there was something wrong with me, and Ellen just was a more disciplined person, and that's why you could do it, which is so false. And I'm determined to dismantle that, because
and that's why your course is so incredible. We should talk about that, and then I also want to get back to Mom and Dad's plant-based journey.
Let's do it.
But talk about your course, because I think you from your story is really helpful. You have this life experience that can and is helping people to transition to being vegan, and to not only doing it for life, but also for the good of everything, like for your health and the planet and the animals. So just talk about like what your course is for anyone interested, and I will link below. Anyone interested in checking out her course, if you're interested in going plant-based, or you're interested, let's say you've been dabbling with eating plant-based vegan, and you're like, I would just like some more guidance on just how to make it stick.
Yeah, and make it stick, yes, but I love the word sustainable, because it's like, let's make this a lifestyle. I know it's so overused in the diet world, like it's a lifestyle, not a diet.
It's like literally every diet these days is like, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle. Yeah, that's pretty much every diet now.
But I do think whole food plant-based it's more than a diet.
Well, if you're eating
especially
whole
for
foods
the
plant-based,
ethical reasons.
well, that's if you're eating, like, if you're living a vegan lifestyle. If you're like eating whole foods plant-based for your health, it is kind of considered like a dietary pattern.
Sure.
But if you're doing this as like a lifestyle habit for the multitude of reasons that it is, to me, that's a lifestyle.
Well, I think the word diet often seems like it's temporary.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Why I created the Vegan for Good course is that we see people go vegan and stop being vegan all the time. And people have been going vegan and stopping being vegan for centuries because this diet has been around for a very long time. And I'm over my years of being vegan myself, knowing people who go vegan, stay vegan, or stop being vegan, and being in the online space, like I've learned a lot about what's going on. And I really wanted to set up a course that really holds people's hands and gives them, it's not just information. Like this is a full program that is tailored for you. And it's not just for one type of person. And it can be for someone who went vegan and then they stopped. This is who it's really for. Someone who went vegan then stopped, and they want to go vegan again. Like let's make this work this time.
Yeah, and just help you with sustainable lifestyle shifts.
Yes.
That's the difference. It's not a temporary diet. It is a sustainable lifestyle shift so that you are thriving. That's what it feels like for us. Like literally it is like the back of our hand, second nature.
It's so easy now.
It's easy. It's sustainable. I feel incredible. My health is thriving. My family's health is thriving. Yeah. And there's reasons for that because there's lots of different ways to eat vegan and not all of them are healthy. And that's just the reality. And then there's also different ways to do it. That's not just about like what you're eating.
Sure. Yeah. And we dig a lot into nutrition, and I worked with some registered dietitians, James and Dolly Marin from Married to Health. They're marvelous. You should definitely check them out. And I wanted to work with some people who were really credible because I'm not a nutritionist. Okay. This is not a nutritionist course, but nutrition's a really big aspect, obviously. But we also really dig into the mindset thing because this is huge. You're making a dramatic shift in your life and you're like, how am I going to handle social situations? I just feel like I can't be vegan.
Or
right?
What about like my partner doesn't want to eat plant-based with me?
Yeah. So,
or even if you're just like, okay, I want to eat more plant-based and I want to do it healthfully. Like this is a great course to get for
absolutely. Or people who are already vegan and they're like, I'm ready to be fully whole foods plant-based and really get rid of the junk, get rid of the processed foods, and go more into the healthy stuff. And so I can feel my best. And because honestly, if you feel good, you're going to thrive. You're going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
If you're eating stuff that's subpar and just sort of getting lazy with that, that's not going to make it sustainable.
Yeah, and to preface too, it doesn't mean that you're never going to eat something processed or something that's not, optimal quality that's going to just be like magic for your insides.
Yeah.
But it is helpful to get into this habit of the way that you're living where the majority of the foods that you're eating that you're excited to eat is whole plant foods. Yeah. And then the stuff that's, on the side is just like the fun every once in a while when you're with your friends or whatever.
And so learning how to do that. Make those peripheral foods, it's not about perfection. And being vegan, I think people think like, well, I can't call myself vegan because I'm not a perfect vegan. There's no such thing as a perfect vegan. There's no such thing as a perfect diet. There's no such thing as, well, I would feel so much better if I just didn't eat gluten anymore. There's so many factors to well-being and health that we can't isolate them just to this meal I ate one time made me feel this way, right?
Totally.
It's a
like
big
health is so
holistic
much
picture.
more than just what you're eating. And I love how in the course you're talking about like a lot of different specific topics that people tackle with. Mm-hmm. Can you want to name like a few of them?
Well, a big one is my partner or family is not vegan, like the people you live with, and how do I handle that? And I have firsthand experience because my husband and I have been married, I think 9 years now. 9 years, yeah. And he is not vegan, and I am shocked, guys. I thought he'd be vegan by now. Like, right? Why isn't he vegan? I don't know. But that's his choice, okay?
That's his journey.
And journey, yes, because he has come a long way.
He eats so many plants now.
He eats almost exclusively vegan. He's pretty much 100% vegan at home. And then when he goes out, he'll have whatever he wants. But sometimes he goes out and he does choose vegan.
A lot of people don't know, too, that when Andrew and I were dating, because we started dating when we were 15 and 16, I became plant-based when I was 19. And I came over, he met me at my house. And I pulled up, because I was somewhere else, I forget why. But I pulled up and he was already there. I'm like, babe, I'm going to go vegan. And he's like, what? What are you talking about? So we weren't married yet, but we were dating. And I was like, yeah, I'm so excited. He's like, you're not going to eat milk? And I was like, no. He's like, you're not going to have eggs? No. You're not going to eat meat? No. I'm like, I'm going to eat this and this and this and all these things I'm going to eat. And I'm so excited. And I got these books and I'm just like so pumped. And he's like, okay. He's like, that's fine, but don't expect me to do it. I'm like, that's okay. I don't even care. I'm just doing it for my own health, for me. Yeah. But slowly over time, it was when there was like differences that he started to see. He saw, you know, he would go get an In-N-Out burger and I would eat a big salad and I'd be like, oh man, I feel so great. And he's like, oh, I did not feel great. I'm like, well, why do you think that is? You know, so over time, especially when we got married, that's when he started to wanting to dabble with like green smoothies, and he would just start making more of his own plant foods. And his journey was also a transition.
And I think he had such success is because you didn't push him.
Yeah, I didn't.
And I pushed real hard, Ellen. Like, I really encourage people to just stop pushing. Not only is it making it literally worse, you're pushing them away from being vegan. It's also just not good for your relationship.
No.
And once I stopped pushing, it took me a while. You know, maybe the first 1 to 2 years in our marriage, we struggled. It was hard. I'm not going to say it was all easy, but after I just went, you know what, Eric can do what he wants.
Yeah, that's like part of unconditional love, is like loving each other for our differences of opinions and choices.
It's beyond just being vegan. I had to let go with wanting to change him in any way.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to speak a little bit to people who are like ethical vegans here listening going, well, that's easy to say that, but like, you know, your partner or whatever is choosing to support like hurting animals and abusing animals. Like, I understand where you're coming from, but it's also really helpful to just try to get in the brain of someone else who doesn't think like you and try to have empathy and realize that while for you and for a lot of people like other vegans, it's really easy to just go there and be like, well, you can't just not judge someone or just not try to change someone when they're doing something that you believe is wrong or that you're saying is wrong. But try to understand that everybody has their own journey and put yourself in their brain and try, and like, it's not a good thing to not understand why people think the way that they do. Someone who thinks differently than you. That's not something to be proud of. Mm-hmm. It's something to be proud of is to be like, I understand how you got there. I understand why you think that way. Mm-hmm. I disagree, but you're there and that's what you think.
Yeah. And I feel like what people forget is that they weren't always vegan either. Like, I can guarantee the first time you heard about the idea of veganism, you were like, I'm giving up animal products, right? Like, it might have taken you some time. Mm-hmm. And some people just take longer. And
it's not even just some people take longer. There's some people listening here who are probably never going to go plant-based. Sure. And it's like, people just have different opinions and different perspectives through the life experiences that they've gone through. Seriously. And just like trying your best here through everything, through politics, through your lifestyle habits, right? To just like understand that we're all going through our own journeys and trying to figure it out the best that we can. And people are going to think, well, no, I believe this is healthy for me and I need this or whatever. And just like trying to understand at least how they got there and just having empathy with that. I feel like that is so key and really helpful for your own mental health too, to not try to fix people or not trying to say like everyone needs to live exactly like me or think exactly like me because I have all the answers.
Well, it's really hard because I know what's best for everyone, Ellen.
She's being facetious, guys. She's being sarcastic. Sometimes it's really hard to read her humor.
It's just hard for Ellen to read.
I've heard to learn over time, but there's times where you're making a joke and I'm like, oh yeah, you joking right now?
How do you have Andrew for a husband and you still don't know how to read sarcasm?
It's not that I don't know how to read it. It's just I don't like it. Like, I'm like, can you just like tell me how you like? I don't know.
I thought my facetiousness worked really well there. Anyway, moving on.
No, it did. No, it's not that I don't like that you did that there. I'm just saying, like, when people like do sarcastic jokes, I'm like, wait, but there might be somebody in the room who doesn't know you're being sarcastic.
Oh, you care so much. I appreciate that.
Okay, but
no, I want to tell about the other topics in my course because it's not just about if your partner isn't vegan. We also talk a lot about cheese addiction because when I did a random sort of, hey, what's holding you back from being vegan as I was creating the course, and literally half of the people responded cheese though. Cheese. I'm addicted to cheese. I do an entire module about cheese. I have an entire really deep module about cravings, both like craving non-vegan things and I'm vegan, but I'm craving junk junk vegan food. I want to eat more whole foods. And we talk about grocery shopping, basics. We talk about meal prepping and cooking and how to make cooking not a source of stress. We cover so many things. And yeah, I'm just so proud of it. And I'm so grateful for the community we're building and the people who are emailing me, who are doing the course and taking the course. And just, they're getting their vegan game changed. And let me just clear it up real quick. If you don't know what a digital course is, it is completely self-paced. It's 100% online. I will not send you a test or a quiz, and it's completely up to you. I do recommend going through it kind of slowly to let everything settle in, because it's a lot of information. And yeah, I think some people aren't familiar with digital courses and how they work.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all that. Anyone interested, check it
Know.
below.
Yes.
So I think before we pivot into the next thing I want to talk about, I do want to finish our little conversation about mom and dad going plant-based. So their journey has been such a long one. Like the majority of us being time that we were plant-based, like they were like, okay, like we're not gonna do it, but like
they were nice.
They were always like so supportive and helpful, and always making us plant-based foods and stuff. And it was probably was it a year ago or a couple years ago when mom
went vegan in the pandemic.
Well, she listened to a Dr. Clapper interview on Rich Roll, and something for her just lit a fire in her. Like she was
Ellen,
it was like a light bulb went off for her.
It's been amazing.
So awesome. She's so passionate. Now she's like, I'm trying to tell my friends, they have this and this symptom. And
because she's almost 70, all of her friends are sick. Yeah. Everyone is sick.
They all have like a lot of health issues going on, and she's like seeing her and dad's transformation, like getting off of all of his medications and like thriving and doing so well. Like you said, it looked like he was like reverse aging, and just seeing how like well they're doing. She's like, I'm trying to tell my friends, and like sometimes they just don't want to watch the documentaries and stuff, but she's just so passionate. And now it's almost like I'm like, see, Mom, you know how passionate I was in the very beginning? Like, that's where you're at right now. And she's like, yeah, I get it.
Yes. Yeah. I know. And she used to, I was just telling you this the other day, she used to hate tofu almost on principle. Like, I don't eat tofu. I'm not vegan. And now she embraces it. She loves tofu, and she loves getting creative in the kitchen, because food is just, it's another extension of who she is making food. And she loves finding new plant-based recipes. And
I just love how open-minded our parents are. Because Dad had messaged me like 6 months ago, like, I can kind of see myself buying a vegan leather belt sometimes.
Yeah. like getting into the ethical side.
Yeah, the other aspects. Anyways, but okay, moving forward. I think we should talk about something that is on a lot of people's minds when it comes to the two of us. I mean, I don't think that we're on a ton of people's minds, but like,
not like anyone ever thinks about
it's not like anyone's like, I just is just like dying to know. But a lot of people, when they think of us together and being on like social media and stuff, they want us to talk about our supposed opposing views of how we choose to have our children online. Mm-hmm. And it's easy, I think, for people to think, and it's understandable why people think we have opposing views about it. But you guys, we actually have like the exact same view. It's just that we have come to slightly different, we're on different time frames and different journeys. And like, why don't you just start what you're thinking?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I totally get why I get 1,000 questions a day.
Oh, wait, we should probably preface for anyone who doesn't know that's listening. Hannah doesn't show her child's face online. And honestly, I feel like the conversation, it's like you said, you're like so over it at this point.
No, it's not that I'm over it. It's just like, I feel like I've talked about it 3 times in a really big way. Like, hey, if you have a question about this, I've already answered it, but I'm still getting questions. But you haven't really addressed it. And so
I've talked about it a little bit in like 1 or 2 episodes on the podcast, but if you're not really listening to everything I'm talking about, then I haven't made like a video about it. I'm just doing what I feel is best, and I don't really need to like, I don't know, tell everybody, but I think it would be good for us to talk about it.
Yeah, I think that's where it starts, is like, I don't feel like anyone else is entitled to give me either praise or criticism about my parenting choices. So while I appreciate the support, thanks. But ultimately, I think it's every parent's choice. I don't feel that strongly about it, is the funny thing. Is like, if I don't show my face, therefore I think anyone else my kid's face, therefore I think anyone else who shows their kid's face is is wrong. Like, it's not that
But
at
this
all.
is because a lot of people think in black and white.
I
A
know.
lot of people think in polar black and white. Okay, you don't show your kid's face online. This person, Ellen, she does show her kid's face online. Therefore, they must have opposing views. But the reality is, guys, when Hannah was pregnant with Cosmo, we were like together discussing it. And she's like, what am I going to do? I'm like, what should I do? And like, I'm like encouraging her, like, yeah, if you're feeling any kind of twinge of just like, I shouldn't, like, maybe I don't want to show my kid's face online, I mean, just don't do it. Like we're both understanding of each other's, like, just exact moment of time that we're in. And like, it literally.
So this is how I explain it, is how I got to that decision. Because if I had Cosmo 5 years ago when I first started making videos, I think it was 5 years ago, I would have shown him no question, because I didn't have a real understanding of the internet. Now that I have been the subject of critical videos, a slew of critical comments, like a horde of critical comments, haters coming to my page, I got this taste of, oh, that's the internet. The internet is a cesspool of humanity. It's just like this weird place where you find these pockets of beauty and wonderful connection.
Yes.
And I love it, and that's why I'm still doing it. But then there's a lot of nastiness, okay? And I'm okay being the subject of that because I have grown a thick skin and I love who I am. I'm very secure in who I am. You can say whatever you want about me. You are entitled to your own opinion, but your opinion actually has nothing to do with me. My child, however, is off limits. So I had to find some sort of boundary where, how can I still be a lifestyle vlogger? I don't know any other lifestyle vloggers who do this. Like, every other lifestyle vlogger shows their kid. Recipe vloggers or political, whatever.
Yeah, different.
It's different to hide your kid that way. This is so awkward, you guys. I have to show my life and sort of still
Because your kid is your life. Your children are your life.
He's attached to me.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too attached. I'm like, he's attached to me. I literally have to hire a babysitter so that I can film, because otherwise, well, not only will he knock down my tripod, but it's just, I can't show him. And I've made that decision. Eric and I came to that decision together, and through your encouragement, which is the irony, because people might assume that.
Yeah, so then people might be like, okay, Ellen, if you're encouraging Hannah to not show her kids, why do you show your kids? And I think there's a lot.
Complicated.
There's so many layers to this. And guys, this is something both Hannah and I battle with and struggle with on a weekly basis. We've had so many conversations about it. I have actually, for a lot of years, been deciding, like, I think it's been like 3 years now, maybe 2 years, where I'm like, okay, I want to transition my kids off of social media, off YouTube especially. How can I do that? So at first I'm like, okay, because I'm like, the kids are getting older, you know, and just with, like you said, the experience of just how nasty the internet can be, which I didn't see in the beginning.
No one knew.
Yeah.
We didn't understand privacy back then. We just didn't.
I don't know if privacy is the word for me, because I feel like I've always been very respectful. I feel very good with how I've chosen to show my children on the internet. I feel very happy with the amount and the way that I've done it, that I've always had these boundaries of what felt right, being always showing only respectful clips of my kids. Sometimes people ask, why don't you show more like real life, quote unquote, moments where your kids are having tantrums on the internet, or like just other things that would be, I don't know, the kids crying or something. I'm like, I'm sorry, no, I'm not going to do that just to appease you and make you feel like I'm a normal family, because you just have to realize I'm a normal family. I'm not going to film my kids when they're crying or upset. Like, would you want to be filmed when you're crying or upset? And I always only film when my kids want to be filmed. I actually, for the most part, just film my own thing, and then they jump in, and I'll sometimes be like, can you go play outside? And like, no, I really want to make this cookie with you. I'm like, all right, I guess you're going to be in it. You know, it's like you said, it's like they are completely immersed in my life. And that is one of the reasons, which is my main channel, which is my life, right? I'm pretty much just sharing my daily life. And like you said, you have one kid, I have four. I'm like, it is so difficult to just, like, if I had a different job where I'm just like sit down talking every video, that would be different. But that's just not the life that's not the job, the career that I ended up making on YouTube, be it somewhat unintentional. So that being said, I'm like thinking, what can I do to help just transition my kids off the internet through my life experience of just how quote unquote nasty the internet can be. And just as my kids get older, it just feels good. Like, okay, my oldest they're getting older. Like I'm ready to just transition off of that. That's actually one of the main reasons why I started the podcast. Not only because my main YouTube channel, I was getting very burnt out
on sharing the day-to-day life things, and just filming in the middle of, and just showing the same thing, like how many different ways can I show my green smoothie, and we go to the beach a couple times a week and our homeschooling. But also because I was really craving like having more conversations about some deeper topics, and just to get into different kinds of topics that my main channel is just not what it had become. And so I'm like, yes, this would be perfect for me to transition this way, and whoever's interested can join along on my journey, and then eventually I can phase out my main channel. So that has been something that's been on my mind before I even started the podcast for like a year. That was like my plan in the works. Like Andrew and I are very big planners. We plan ahead and like really think ahead of things. And then the other aspect of like, okay, trying to do more videos without the kids all together. And so I tried doing that for a little bit. And I try my best to be like, okay, what's a video I can do where they're less in it? And then my kids are like, Mom, your videos suck now. Well, I don't say suck, but they're like, your videos aren't as good anymore. I like the videos when we were in it. And I'm like, well, okay.
I mean, they don't understand the bigger picture.
Yeah, well, I mean, my oldest does. Like, Elvis definitely is aware, I think, at this point. But he really likes being in the videos. And so I've just kind of found this balance at this point where I'm just posting less on YouTube and more on the podcast. And I'm eventually transitioning to only the podcast. That is my ultimate plan. And it shouldn't be too far off in the future. And so I'm just posting a lot less on my channel. And I think one of the things that people like to jump to is that anyone who shows their kids online is like the same.
I know, they lump everyone together. It's like,
yeah, it's like if you show your kids, if you show your kids online at all, then you're just all these labels, right? As opposed to not seeing the differences in the types of ways that you show your kids online. If you're showing them when they're really upset, or it's just like constantly in their faces, and it's all about getting them to do something for clicks. Like that's just not me. I know my heart. I know how I've been. I literally have always just been here being like, this is the Ellen Show, showing my life, and then they just kind of pop in. And there are certain videos where it's not quite as much like that subtle, but for the most part it is, and I feel really good about what I have shared. And there's also so many pros.
Well, let's just talk about how many lives you've changed. I'm sorry, but so many people are going vegan because of your channel, and so many animal lives are changed. And even if they're not going fully vegan, they're just like, hey, I want to eat healthier. I want to eat more fruits and
just showing so people can see how healthy it is to raise kids on a plant, at least predominant diet.
You could see, hey, these kids look amazing. They're thriving, and most people don't have the opportunity to see vegan kids.
Yeah, but I think aside from this conversation, that shouldn't be a really big part of the point, the bigger picture. Like to me, the bigger picture is like what's best for my kids.
Yeah.
So to me, that's not really something. Thank you for that, but for me, that's not something that's like a big part of my like decision.
Like a justification.
Yeah, no. Yeah. For me, it's like I do see though that there are so many pros to the life that we've built, and what we do online, this family channel we have, because it literally is like, I think people kind of think that it's like, oh, I assume anyone who has their kids online or on YouTube that it's like you just have their camera in their face all the time, but it's literally once every couple weeks I'm filming a video and I'm like in the garden and they're like, can I help? And I'm like, sure. And they come in, and they love being in the videos. And what's so incredible is that we have so many memories to look back on. And I honestly feel like my kids are going to have such heightened, incredible childhood memories. Like if you think about your childhood, how many memories do you actually remember? A lot of them are only if my parents popped in the video camera when they recorded on that like big camcorder. And then you have, oh, there was my birthday. Oh, I remember that now.
Yeah.
But think about how many memories my kids watch. The home, like Scout loves watching her home birth video. Mm-hmm. They love watching their birthday videos, the Christmas videos, and over again, that'll be like, can we watch your YouTube, Mom? And they just love that. And the other main pro for me is that my kids have gotten to grow up with Andrew, their dad, at home all day, where we are together as a family unit. And, you know, most families, like the dad most of the time, not always, but is gone all day. And then you see them at home for dinner for a couple hours before bed. And what's beautiful about this life that we have created is that they get to have their father figure in their life, such an important figure, like all throughout the day. And he has been such a grounding part. Like, I imagine if they were like, do you want Mom to quit? And then Dad goes get a job all day. Like, there's just no way. Yeah. So, yeah, all that to say is these are not like quote unquote justifications. It's more so the pros and cons that I balance, that I feel this like trying to figure out what is the right thing for our family. And overall, I do have that desire to just like gravitate my kids like towards the podcast, or sorry, gravitate my social media towards the podcast, and then get my kids off of YouTube especially. And I've even like, I have so many pictures of my kids that I just like, I don't post because I'm like, I barely post on Instagram anymore. And part of that is because like, I don't have very many pictures of just myself. And I do post like, you know, sometimes pictures of the kids still, but I just feel like it's just not so black and white. And I'm like, I feel like we just need to all have a little less judgment of people and realize that everyone's just doing their best. Most people are doing their best and just trying to figure out what is best for their family.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's so many parenting decisions. The moment you get pregnant, there's so many parenting decisions. And when I went through, you know, my first time, my midwife asked me at her 6-week visit, like, what are the kind of surprises for you? And I said, you know, the biggest thing I think I didn't know I would feel is that I feel literally just no judgment about how someone else chooses to parent.
Yeah.
I might have my own opinions, and there's reasons that I make my choices, but most of the time, parents are doing what they believe is best for their kids, and they are the right parents for those children. So I wish we could all just stop pointing fingers and just acting as if like someone else knows what's best for my child.
Totally. And just saying like, you don't care about your kids, or you don't this, so you're doing it wrong. Like, just have a little less judgment. I feel the same way. Before I had kids, I'd be like, I would never do that. I would never do that. And then I had kids and I'm like, oh, I totally get why people do these things. Like, just have a little less judgment for people's decisions and just show a little more grace and realize that not everything is black and white. And the whole reason we brought this up is like, a lot of times people, like we said, think that we must have opposing views about this, but we actually have the same views, and we're just like trying to figure out the best way to move forward.
And sometimes, guys, I want to show Cosmo, you don't even know how cute that baby is.
He's so cute.
And it's really hard. But it's actually really nice having like a boundary where it's like, I can't show his face. Okay, that's the rule I set up for myself, which is limiting for me because I feel like I would be such an oversharer if I had no limits, you know? So it's just really nice to just have sort of start out clean. And that's why I was really intentional about it when I had my first kid, and I'm already a YouTuber.
Yeah.
It's different if like you already have your kid and then you go into YouTube and you're not really thinking much because you don't really have a big audience, you haven't been subject to hate, and then you're like,
it's just like, look, we're just sharing our lifestyle, and it's like, oh, okay. But at the same time, like I said, I feel like there are so many pros to this career that I have done. And so that's why, to me, what feels the best for our family is that I'm phasing them off and going towards the podcast. Yeah. That's my ultimate goal, is to do that, you know, somewhat.
And I find the conversation in general interesting, even if you and I didn't have personal experience with it, because the internet is our age. We're in the internet, and it's fascinating to just dig into those different, just the different ways you could handle the internet.
Yeah, totally. There's so many different ways to handle it. And there's even like, you know, people feel that way even if you don't even have like an audience or career about it. Like you shouldn't show your kid even if you have like, you know, just your close friends on the internet, because, you know, children cannot consent type of thing. I don't know if I relate to the children cannot consent kind of thing, because there are so many things that we do as parents that our children do not consent to. So I don't think that's a valid reason personally. But I do think that the well-being of your family, keep doing what you think is the best for your kids, and most people are really just doing their best.
Okay, so I really hope
this clears it up.
Yeah, because I just get a lot bored of talking about this.
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's helpful because people just haven't heard us talk about it yet.
Yeah, and maybe it's hard for me to talk about because I am tempted to show his face. So it's like, stop tempting me. You know what I mean? I've set up this boundary. I'm gonna stick to it.
So I feel like even just from this conversation, not even just about this, but, you know, people's opinions and judgments, it's easy to take things personally, that when people have their judgments about you. But social media does this thing where people feel inclined and justified to just type their thoughts, whereas in real life, people don't do that. People have these healthy social filters where there's certain things that, you know, are not helpful or beneficial. Like certain things, I have to realize that when people say things, not just about whether I put my kids online or anything, but just anything, any kind of criticism about me or what I look like or how I'm doing things or what I'm sharing, that the majority of the time, if someone is being like, you know, critical, or just especially if it's like a nasty something, that these people would never say something to my face about that. And so anyone online who's not even a social media person, but just not even like a career person, but you're online and you just experience it, or you see it, or even just experiencing judgment in real life, like to work on yourself to not take things personally, because what people are doing is really more about them and not about you. Because if somebody is having a really bad day, I've definitely had times like that or someone says something really nasty to me online, and most of the time I ignore it or I block and just move on if someone's just being like really outright nasty for no reason, especially if it's not even pertained to the topic of what I'm sharing.
Just a troll.
Yeah. But every once in a while it's like, I'm just going to send a message to them, just try to be kind. And if I do that, most of the time the person is like, I'm so sorry, I'm just having a bad day.
Yeah.
And just realizing that and we've gotten emails before. I've gotten emails before of someone apologizing for something that they said on my page months ago. Like, I'm so sorry, I was being really nasty. I was in this really bad place. And I'm like, wow, that's like really big of them. And I really appreciate that. But just overall, it's helpful to just not take things personally, because whatever someone thinks about you, not even just about internet comments, but just in real life, has nothing to do with you. It's really about them and what they're going through. And anytime you find yourself being quick to judge, like, check in with yourself and be like, why
do I have these strong opinions about this other person?
Like, what can I do to work on myself? And that actually comes back to a video that Hannah and I made like 4 or 5 years ago about like, are you doing these 6 things? Stop it now. It's probably one of my favorite videos we made together. But that's basically one of the main things we talked about was like, are you judging other people, and are you like taking things personally? Stop taking things personally. Do you have any comments on that?
I mean, yeah, I think it's obviously easier said than done. It takes a lot of inner work and detaching. And some people just are naturally, and this is sort of what we were discussing the other day, like, why are some people just naturally so good at not taking things personally, almost to a fault, where you're like, they don't.
Andrew, my husband.
That's
that
what
is
I'm talking
him.
about,
The epitome of someone who does not care what people think of him.
And I want to get there. I think I've grown a lot, and I think that I attribute that to my time on the YouTube and the experience of some really hard moments where people say things, they make entire videos about me, and I have to realize, wow, what a sad person. What a sad person to dedicate your entire life to making videos criticizing other people. That's really sad. I feel really bad for them.
That's really sad.
It's dark.
It's very dark. Like, and it's not like uplifting your own self. It's not being your best self.
Yeah.
And so when someone, and this is even for anyone listening, like in real life, if there's someone in your life, you're like, oh, I feel like they don't like me, or you're feeling insecure about, I said this the wrong way, maybe they're thinking this about me, like, just the importance of like working on yourself to just let it go and realize that like other people's opinions of you is none of your business.
I know. I feel like sometimes Eric doesn't understand me, how I truly am like, yeah, well, they can think that about me. He's like, what? You're really gonna let them think? Yeah, they can think that about me. She can think I'm being a little forward, but I'm just being honest. I really value honesty, and if someone isn't willing to go there with me, that's their problem. They can work on it. And it might sound a little crass, or it might sound a little cold, but I don't have time to get emotionally involved, to like take care of someone else's feelings, like yes, I'm gonna be kind.
Hannah, you sound kind of nasty right now. I'm just kidding.
I don't know. That was some good sarcasm, Ellen. But you had to say just kidding after that.
I have to say just kidding, like right away.
Just kidding. Eric's the same way. Yeah, I don't know. It just, I understand. I can come off as sort of cold, but I'm a nice person. I'm really nice.
You're so nice, Hannah.
I'm not a rude person, but my point is that if someone thinks something about me that I know not to be true, I don't find it that urgent to correct them.
That's how Andrew is. He's very like, and a lot of people who know me online know that I've talked about how admirable a quality it is, that think that Andrew is like that he's just so good at just being like, well, I know who I am inside, and like he cares about it's valid to him the opinions of people who he feels is respectful, someone who he respects, right? And in life, but someone on the internet or someone who doesn't know him, even someone in real life that he's not close with, like, it's okay, they think these things about me, so what? Like, I know who I am.
Don't you think I'm kind of like that though?
Yeah, I do think you're like that.
Thanks.
Yeah, you are good like that too.
I think I'm kind of good at that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like both of us have grown so much from like what we've experienced on the internet.
But it's extended to real life. So I'll have, sort of miscommunication with a friend, and I'll do my best to clarify. But if they're still determined to think XYZ about me, I'm moving on.
Yeah, I'm not like
that.
I
got some soup to make. I don't have time.
I am definitely not like that. I'm very the person that just like wants to come together no matter what. Like, wait, you're still not. Like, let's just, can we please, like, I really just want you to know that I love you, and like, can we just work this out? Yeah. Like, for me, that is that is something to a fault for me, that I just always want things to work out. And like sometimes, yeah, it just depends, right, on like the situation, what the best thing to do is with friendships. I think a lot of people struggle with a lot of friendships, a lot of women, and you kind of think like in high school it's just the drama, and then when you get older it's all over, but that isn't always necessarily the case for some people's
But you know what I
experiences.
think, Ellen, is like, because I'll still have some, you know, difficult communication with friends. And I really think that when you become a mom, you just need easy friendships. You just don't want to do drama. Like all of my heart is going to my child.
Yes.
And I want friends who uplift me and are honest with me. And if they have a problem with me, we can talk about it.
Or if they have a problem, you can be there for them.
Yes.
Yes. But the hugest factor, I think, in a quality friendship is like not taking things personally and not jumping to conclusions or making assumptions.
Yeah, because then you're just creating a storm for no reason.
Yeah, and that's something that like when you're a teenager, a lot of times it's just something that your brain hasn't quite developed.
Someone doesn't text you back right away. You see the 3 dots and they disappear. You jump to all these conclusions. Just let it go. Who cares? But they probably got interrupted or something. You know?
It's very freeing to live a life where you're like kind of just very strong on your own person, and it's not like just centered around other people's.
But I think that's what it is. It's a lack of security in who you are. So if you know who you are and if you're secure, this little rumble over here isn't going to make everything come crashing down.
But is part of it too like personality differences and like just the desire to like be a fixer or be someone that's just like a peacemaker and trying to bring peace, whereas like someone's like, well, if that's how they feel, then just kind of move on. Like it's part of that too. It's pretty layered.
But maybe the person who feels like they have to fix everything, maybe that's part of your identity and your security and who you are. Like if someone feels, you know, something negative about me, then that means something about who I am.
Or for me, it's more like a misinterpretation or a misunderstanding. Like a lot of times it's just miscommunication.
I know it really is hard to be misunderstood, but that affects your security and who you are.
Yeah, the goal is to not let it affect your security and who you are, for sure. I'm so thankful that I have a husband like Andrew, because he's very grounding for me too. And he's just very helpful with his sarcasm and with his just, you know, laugh it off.
So you like his sarcasm. Okay.
Oh, but I do, but I don't.
Be sarcastic.
Wait, do I hate it or do I love it? I don't know, you guys. Don't question me. But how do you feel like motherhood, like you said, has changed you, other than just the fact of like, you're like, I don't have time for nonsense? What else has changed you?
I feel like
motherhood?
you become a new creature. You become a bit of a cafeteria. Because
what's that mean?
You're just food for like a while. You're just food for a while.
Right over my head.
It's okay. And I think for me, I know it's a little cliche, but I really feel like I have learned my depth and my strength and how much I can do, because labor was labor, right? That was a really hard thing that I accomplished, that I did. And in the end, it was this beautiful, this like incredible experience that I can't wait to do again. And I loved having a home birth. But you know, I look back, it was like an ultra marathon. I can't believe I did that. And we've talked about too, birth, I feel like it's something you do. It's not something that happens to you. I really feel like that distinction is important to me. Birth isn't just happening to me. It's like, I'm doing this right now. And that was incredible. And then, you know, breastfeeding was a journey. It was so hard. 4 months of many different lactation consultants and struggles and so many tears, and then growing from that and releasing that stress. Oh, it is coming back right now. Just like puts me back in that.
I'm telling you, the second time is going to be 1,000 times easier.
Yes, it's so different, I'm sure.
I definitely felt that with the first one. It was so hard and confusing. I was like, the first time I didn't have any other young new mom friends that I was close with, and just like not understanding how to do it. Like, it was just very confusing. It's definitely something that you have to be taught how to do. It doesn't just super come naturally most of the time.
You would think.
Yeah, you would think, because
this is what my boobs are for. Why can't I just?
Well, that's partly like the journey of like the tribal sacred motherhood, womanhood thing of like how the older generation teaches you their wisdom and what they've learned, and we've kind of detached from that in our society.
It's more clinical now.
Everything's clinical. We're separated as communities, and it's just not as communal as like the way that maybe our species was intended to be, or the way it used to be.
We never saw people breastfeeding. You know, I remember as a kid, I saw someone breastfeeding on my couch, and I didn't realize what they were doing. They had a cover, and they're like, oh, don't go, it's so awkward, her boob is out, it's just sort of, I didn't, breastfeeding, you know what I
The
mean?
culture is definitely different now, but it isn't that way for everyone in the United States or maybe across the world still. Like there are definitely some people are going to feel more comfortable with different things anyways. Like some people are comfortable to cover up, some people are not, and then some people,
I know, I'm not. You're so funny.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
No, I'm just saying, like, yeah, sure, you can feel comfortable covering up. Everyone do what they want to do. But my own experience of never seeing someone breastfeed.
Yes.
We weren't breastfed ourselves, and it just wasn't part of our family life. Your children are so used to it, they're going to have a different experience when they have children.
Yes.
And then...
No, I was only bringing that up because I think that there are certain parts of the country still where there are, or maybe even the world, where it's not considered normal to breastfeed in public.
It's not.
It's not still.
Yeah.
Like there are certain times.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah. No, definitely. I have a story, but I'm not. I'm like, should I bring it up?
Can we do it?
Keep going.
Can you do a breastfeeding episode?
I should.
Because I think it's so beautiful and amazing.
Okay. Yes, but keep going about your motherhood.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I wish I could be more reflective about this, and sometimes I'm just doing it, and there's just so much to do, and it's I think sometimes I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just kind of bouncing my baby like, am I doing this right? I have no idea. Let me text Ellen. Is this okay? And I don't know what I'm doing, And sometimes I think back to pre-baby, and I would look at other people who have 1 kid, 2 kids, and I just assumed everyone knew what they were doing. And most people, I think, are kind of just winging it. Yep. They read a couple books maybe, and they just feel like, I'm just gonna do what I think is best.
But that's why having a community as best as you can is so helpful, because it helps you get insights and wisdom from different people on things that you're like, oh, I never even considered that. For sure.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Sandy.
Scout, we're not done with the podcast yet. Close the door. Close the door. We're not done.
I'm getting so hot.
Yeah. Well, what? Okay. Awesome, Sandy. That's great. Close the door. Well, she had a little cameo.
Yeah.
Where were we from here? I forget. Oh, we were talking about the journey of like having a community helping you with, and it feels like no one's really knows what they're doing, and I totally agree.
Yeah, it's just intense motherhood. I remember one of your friends, Ashley, when I came last year, Cosmo was 6 months, and she asked, how's motherhood going? And I was like, it's intense. It's just, that's my favorite word for it. It's just a lot. Yes. And especially that first year. Now that we're into the second year, things are kind of a little smoother, and it feels like we have a bit more of a rhythm, and I feel like I have more freedom. Cosmo slept amazing last night. Oh my gosh. Sleep is everything. It's like the sleep, and we were co-sleeping for a year, and now he's learning how to sleep in his crib, and it's truly life-changing to have a bed to myself.
For sure. It's this constant evolution journey, like especially as they get to different ages. I love to talk to moms who have like older kids of like just like ideas of what could be ahead.
Oh, I know. What's funny is one of my dear friends, Isla, the one who's a novelist, she became an empty nester the same year that I became a mom. Wow. So we were both sort of going through this like huge transformation, and she said that experience of becoming an empty nester is like really, really, I don't want to use the word hard, but it's like, it's a bigger deal than she anticipated.
Mm-hmm. I don't feel like our mom and dad acted like it was a big deal, like at all. A lot of times you picture the whole, like the parents crying.
Our parents aren't very clingy.
Yeah, they're not. But we don't have very clingy parents.
No, not
they're
at all.
Like, bye.
Seriously, I remember being 16, be like, bye, Mom. And she would never even ask where I was going. I would just be like, bye, I'll see you. She would ask where I was coming home.
We didn't have a curfew. Which
they
I
just
think
trusted us
They
a
just
lot.
really trusted us.
Yeah.
And, if we came home really late one night, they'd be like, it's kind of late. It's like 11:30. And I'm like, yeah, I'll come home earlier next time. She's like, okay, go back to her book. And I loved that type of parenting.
Know.
I just really, felt trusted compared to a lot of our friends, had parents maybe that were just quick to assume that maybe, oh, you must be smoking or you must be doing this, or like, I think you're lying to me. And like, that just fosters this really disconnected relationship. But anyways, I feel like we talked about so many things.
I know. I don't even know what it was about.
What is this episode?
Yeah.
What is it even about? I hope you enjoyed this conversation. This is kind of how all our conversations go. And When she comes to visit, I love every night after the kids go to bed, we just like sit and talk, but only until 10 because we're like bedtime. So we get like 1 hour together. And even before you had Cosmo, you've always been so helpful. You would come and visit and just help me with the kids, clean all the dishes, make the food. And it's so helpful. And I just love you. And I love everything about you. And I love our relationship. And this is how our conversations go.
Yeah.
So I hope you liked
I hope
our
we
little
can do it
sneak
again
peek.
because it was really fun. And I love digging deep into this kind of thing. And I'm so proud of everything you're doing and everything you're attempting to do and
Thanks.
doing. And
Thanks.
I think it's incredible. And the amount of attention to detail that you have is, I think, something people don't realize.
It's a lot. I'm sometimes it's too much, I think. I'm like, wait, no. Wait, the angle's not quite right. You're like, Ellen, hit record.
Time to go.
Anyways, thank you so much for being here. I'm
course.
so excited to have you on the podcast, and I hope you guys really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you. Bye.